everyone, welcome to the first edition of CRM Talks, a series we've just launched where we have conversations with loads of amazing salespeople. We decided that we can't miss this opportunity and talk to these people as they've got first-hand experience on organizing and managing lead and customer data, they standardizing their processes and managing their sales team. Also, they know how to move deals down the pipeline and how to close those deals effectively. And most important, we want to know the role of CRM in all those processes. Why? Well, obviously, because we are in NetHunt CRM and this is something that we are into. If you want to get more actionable CRM related content, subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have loads of amazing stuff there. I'm very happy to welcome our first guest. This is Vitalii from EPOM. EPOM is an online advertising company that is focusing on developing software for managing and running ad campaigns. Hi, Vitalii. How are you doing today?
Hi, what's up? How are you doing? Nice to see you.
Yeah, when I was thinking about the first guest of our CRM Talks, EPOM instantly came to my mind because I know how you guys are constantly improving your sales processes and you are NetHunt users. So I'm pretty sure that CRM helps you with that.
True. It's true. Yes, it is. It does a lot.
Yeah. So, Vitalii, are you ready to get into it?
Yes, let's start.
Cool. So when you joined EPOM, they were already using a CRM, as far as I know. But probably at your previous job or at the start of your career, did you use spreadsheets or any other tools to organize and manage customer data?
Yes, naturally. Most of the companies, especially the small ones where I was working before, they were using the Excel spreadsheets, for example. These are the typical examples how to manage your clients and the contact that you have. But of course, it's not that convenient. And sometimes it was a bit messy because, it's possible to connect them with the cloud, for example, to synchronize the information, but not all the users were doing it. So sometimes the information was not up to date and it was like a mess.
Yeah, we'll talk about the updating of CRM a bit later. I have that question. But what are like the main benefits that you see now in the CRM after you start using it?
For me, it's a great advantage to use the CRM. What you provide, guys, by the way, it's very convenient for me because I can see all the information that I'm interested in. As soon as I do a click, I can see everything considering the client, the contact, or the sales process. And so one click, let's say like this, it's really convenient and it helps a lot about solving my day-to-day issues. For me, it's really important you're saying about the context or the clients and so on. As soon as you click on the profile of the client, you're able to see all the history of the deals, what he was or she was doing, what we were talking about, all the messages are preserved there. So it's like a huge archive and it's possible to manage all this data. It's really convenient.
Yeah, that's true. But we've talked a bit about those automation. And in terms of automation, at what extent are your processes automated with CRM?
I guess if you're talking about the percentage, I guess it's about 80%. Of course, not all the information, not all the processes can be automated. Some of them must be manual. For example, talking about my personal processes, mostly like one of them is the workflow about sending the messages, sequence messages. Of course, as soon as the client answers, then I need to take the process on myself. So this part is manual, but the rest of the work, NetHunt can do it for me. So why not to use it?
Yeah, great. Especially if we are talking about like high priority deal, we definitely will manage them like manually because all that personalization, of course, we can also automate it with certain macro sets, with the CRM system. But again, like Machines can't replace people in this process. Do you have your favorite workflow that helps you a lot?
Yes, yes. As I said, the main workflow that I'm using is the sequence emailing. We managed to do the system when we are sending around, for example, 6 emails with some waiting period. Like the first message goes, then we wait for 3 days, we send the second one, and so on. And of course, if somebody replies to us, then we can see that message go to a special category, and then we need to then we manage this client manually as he replies to us and so on. This saves a lot of time, to be honest, a huge part of time that I was supposed to do it like manually, sending these messages, controlling the dates, when should I send the first message, second message. The system does it for me, so it's like brilliant. It's brilliant.
You said that about those automated sequences. So you are mostly using them for like pre-sales, yeah?
Yes, it's a part of the pre-sales. The clients or leads are generated by the marketing department. For example, they go to the emailing stage, and as soon as some of them they replies to the email, then I catch it and I start chatting personally, like looking for him in Skype or so on. Of course, this information is possible. This context is possible to add to the CRM. So, for example, my colleague can do it as well. Like everything is synchronized, and that's what we are doing.
Mm-hmm. And probably you have any automated workflows for like after sales processes when the lead is already yours and it is won. Like, do you have any probably like automated tasks to follow up, to just to catch up or something like that?
So far, we don't have these processes, but of course, it's possible to do it. One of them was designed by me like 2 weeks ago, and we are still thinking how to make it perfect, to make it live. It's going to be, for example, some of our clients, they get the trial version of our ad server, and sometimes it goes for 2 weeks. And sometimes I forget to follow up, like how the setup process goes on and so on. And of course, this workflow, it will help us because in this case, I'm going to send the first message with, for example, the details, how to log into the server and so on. The second message is going to be like follow up. Do you need some assistance about the setting up that server? And the third one, when the trial period is over, I'm asking the client, was it good? And do you plan to work with us further? And so on.
Yeah, nice. I also like, this after sales workflow. We and you are also like we are both in SaaS business. So like those subscription recurring payments are very important for us. And I like that workflow when you set up an automated task or automated, for example, follow-up email a few weeks before the subscription to make sure that
Exactly.
you'll get that second payment and stuff like that. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And do you have sales processes that you like least? Something that you think about, I don't want to do this, I'd be rather doing something else. And it is not like related to automation or, yeah.
What I'm thinking at the moment, most of the processes that I'm doing, they're great because most of them, they're automated. Before, it was a nightmare, like having these Excel spreadsheets to do this mailing system. But now, as it is automated by the NetHunt, it improved my life a lot.
Cool.
Like bad sides of the processes that I'm doing, most of them, they are automated. I have this creative work to do, like answering with the sophisticated, intricate messages to the client, and the rest of this routine work, it was taken by the CRM, so I'm really happy.
As you might know, all the automated workflows, they only work when we have clean and accurate data in a CRM. Because when, like we talked about this at the beginning of our conversation, that we need to update CRM system. How do you guys ensure clean and reliable data that you have in a CRM? Do you have any tips?
Well, first, it depends on the type of the business. For example, one of the most important processes for me is to follow up the client. For example, some of them, they were gone. And for example, the case when I decide to make the new emailing campaign, the first important stage is to check if these emails are valid or not. For example, it's possible using the CSV file to get the third-party data about the validity of the emails, to upload them to the NetHunt CRM, and just after that to do the emailing campaign to make sure that the bounce rate is low and you are not going to be blocked by Google or another SMTP. For me, it's really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And do you have reviews of your data, for example, like once in the quarter, or I don't know, once in the 2 weeks, for example, like to make sure that you have updated all the records and they are up to date?
Mostly we have the long sales, so it's not done like each week or each 2 weeks. It is done from time to time just to check if the client's status is valid or not, and just to do some manual work, but it's usually everything is automated, so mostly it's done by the CRM.
Yeah, like automation helps a lot with the data accuracy and data relevancy. Do you guys use like web forms on the websites, to generate leads?
Yes,
I think
of course.
your marketing uses, yeah.
You're absolutely right. Our marketing, it generates the leads. They come from different forms. All this information is preserved in the CRM, so we can see what kind of information do they state. For example, for me, being a part of the sales department, it's important to see what is the name of the client and what is the email that I'm going to use for the pre-sales process, for example, and so on. Of course, another really important step is on our website, in the form, registration form, the client goes via the questionnaire. So some of the questions that are important for the pre-sales or sales process in general, he or she state the answers. And in general, I have the clue what kind of services the client is looking for, because our company, it offers like several services. So for me, it's really important from the very first minute, very first second, to understand what kind of information the client might be interested in, and then to provide exactly this information to the client to make him happy.
Yeah, cool. And actually, in terms of automation, based on those answers, you can also set up like different sequences, to add relevant content. I don't know if you agree, but I think that we are now entering like the customer first era. I think that we've been there before, but with this pandemic, it just, like we emphasize it, and most of the businesses, they realized that client should be in the center, because it is now very difficult and more costly to acquire new clients. So we have to be sure that we provide like the best possible customer experience. But I looked through recent research. It was held by HubSpot, and I wondered that like 55% of businesses, they still rely on spreadsheets or other systems documents to manage their customer data. Do you think they'll be able to survive in this customer-centered era without using a CRM system?
I guess talking about the spreadsheets like Excel, for example, it may fit to some really small businesses. Like if you have 10 clients, for example, and you do not update the information like weekly or monthly or so on, I guess then it will be fine. But if you have a lot of clients with a lot of parameter, that with a lot of value that are changing, and you need to follow everything like this, then of course there is a strong need of CRM.
Yeah, that's true. Vitalii, I know that you are a very busy guy and it's a very hot business season, so I won't take more of your time. But just one thing, we want to establish a tradition in our CRM talks, and we want our guests to ask questions for a guest in the future. As you are, as you are my first guest, so you only answered my question, but I'd like to ask you a question for our future guest without even knowing who it's going to be, but it definitely will be a salesperson. And I'll be sure to get the answer for you.
Okay, the question is like this. Would you recommend the NetHunt CRM to all your colleagues or your competitors and so on?
Nice. I hope that we'll have a NetHunt user at the next CRM talk. And if not, they'll have to look at the system and either recommend it to our audience or not. Thank you very much for your time and for this conversation. It was a pleasure for me talking to you. And I hope that, if those companies, businesses who watched this series and they are not using a CRM system for now, I think that our conversation will make them, at least one step closer to implementing a CRM and making their sales life much more easier. If you are now on the lookout for a CRM system, that NetHunt can be a perfect option for you. Just head to description under this video and subscribe and try and implement it. Thank you, Vitalii. Have a good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. Stay in touch. Talk to you soon. Enjoy the day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.